Hello, everybody, and welcome back to coverage of GP Denver. I'm Gabby Sparks, joined by Luis Scott Vargas, and this is round 15, our last round of the Swiss. We're going to see Seth Manfield playing versus Corey Burkhardt. Now, both players are at 12-2. This is a win and in. This is White-Blue Panharmonicon versus Red-Green Etherworks. And it was an opening shaking hands. We're going to see Vessel and Nascency to kick things off.
And Corey revealing that mountain to the game trail and just letting it kind of sit there. It is not in play, though.
Nah, it's definitely just in his hand game.
It would have been a pretty smooth move.
Yeah. All right, so Glynness Crane for Seth. And now, Luis, can you give us a quick breakdown of what we can expect in this matchup?
So Seth does have a lot of good late game pressure with the infinite combo. He's got Drowner of Hope plus Panharmonicon plus Eldrazi Displacer. But in the short term, Corey's Etherworks Marvel, which, as you can see, he's already got on the table, can threaten to put Emrakul or Ulamog into play and just kind of end the game on the spot. So Seth, even though he's got a good late game plan, does have a lot of pressure to try to finish the game before Etherworks Marvel really gets going, because he's not going to be able to stop the first activation, but he might be able to close out the game before Corey gets a second one, even though that's looking unlikely. The turn 3 Marvels that really the start that the Marvel deck is looking for. Yeah,
and the Servant of the Conduit really helping Corey out, getting that Marvel out on turn 3. Up to 2 energy, can't activate it quite just yet.
Yeah, Corey sitting on 2 energy is going to need something like Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot to ramp himself up in order to get to the full amount of energy.
Well, good thing he has a Vessel and Nascency on play. He might be able to find that. All right, so Smuggler's Copter to follow up from Seth, and let's see what Corey does this turn. So he's cracking that Vessel. He finds another Marvel.
So Vessel of Nascency has a lot of hits, but here it's Emrakul or Marvel. Those are the only choices Corey has. And the second Marvel, because it's legendary, will generate 2 energy. Since one will die, you'll get to choose one to keep, and both Marvels will see the other and generate 2 energy when you sacrifice it.
Still, if you're Corey, you're not very excited here. Looks like he is opting to take that Emrakul. And is this Servant of the Conduit beatdown? It is.
It's not plan A or plan B or even probably plan C, but if you're not going to block, you might as well attack. The no attacks, no blocks is no way to go through life.
So if you're Seth, are you happy here about the whole exchange that just happened?
Corey had a pretty weak hit off the Vessel. I think that you'll be pretty happy seeing in the Emrakul, especially since Corey's got 4 types in the graveyard and 4 lands. Who's at 8 total Emrakul plus Servant, 9 total Emrakul mana. So he's a few turns away. And something like a Puzzle Knot would have been a lot harder to deal with. But I don't like the fact that Corey has a Etherworks Marvel in play. If I'm Seth, I'm just unhappy about the fact that it's fairly likely to go off in the next couple of turns.
All right, so this is turn 4. Let's see if Seth plays. Yes, he does. It's a Panharmonicon.
All right, we're off to the races. Panharmonicon's the card Seth's deck is built around. Opening with it on turn 4 while applying the Smuggler's Copter Glynness Crane beatdown means that Seth's deck is also going to do what he's trying to do. Turn 3 Marvel versus turn 4 Panharmonicon is kind of a battle for the ages.
All right, so this is a Nishkana from Corey. Also an Ether Hub, which does provide him some energy. Delirium is online, so in come the Spiders too. And continuing with the Servant of the Conduit beatdown.
I really like the inclusion of Ishkana in these decks because, first of all, it protects you very well. It gives you more time to get your game plan into action. The second is the Spiders plus Etherworks Marvel is just this sweet combo where if they want to plow through all the Spiders, then you just keep generating energy when they die.
It is cool that it has a combination of wanting to create energy, but also has a bit of a Delirium sub-theme. So you can do things like Emrakul, but also, Ishkana.
Yeah, and Vessel of Nascency fits into both of these plans. Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot puts artifacts in the graveyard. It's really cool seeing the evolution of the Etherworks Marvel deck because this looks, the commonly played lists look very different from the lists we saw at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Where it was still 20% of the field. And seeing that evolution, seeing the decks get much better, in my opinion, is very cool. And that's one of the cool things about Standard. It's just a lot of iteration and people getting better at building these decks.
What do you think of the version that plays black instead of red? We haven't seen that at all today.
Yeah, we saw Neil Oliver play it yesterday, and he said he was doing all right in the tournament when I talked to him today. But it seems like the Harness Lightning in particular and Chandra are both so critical to how this deck plays out.
Well, Seth adding to the board here with a Smuggler's Copter and an Eldrazi Displacer.
Ooh, Seth's one card away from going infinite. If he goes land Drowner of Hope next turn, then he has an infinite combo because Eldrazi Displacer, you can pay 2 and a colorless to exile Drowner of Hope. And every time Drowner of Hope enters the battlefield with Panharmonicon, you get 4 Eldrazi Scions. Sack 3 Scions, blink the Drowner, get 4 Scions, and you end up with infinite Eldrazi Scions. So at that point, Seth could also blink his Glintless Crane infinite times to draw as many artifacts out of his deck as he wanted to. And overall, if he finds a Thought Knot Seer, he could blink it infinite times and deck
the opponent. So yeah, I was going to say, how many other cool interactions are there in this deck?
There's a lot. Cloud Blazer is also a crowd favorite. It can really go off. And if I'm Corey, I'm not feeling great about the fact that Seth has 2/3 of his combo in play.
How likely is this deck to assemble the combo, by the way?
It's not a really focused combo deck. I wouldn't, if I had to classify it, as, combo, control, aggro, mid-range, whatever, I would say the Panharmonicon deck is more of a mid-range deck, maybe leaning towards control.
You could just call it sweet. Is that a category?
It definitely falls into that category. It is sweet. Any deck with Panharmonicon and Cloud Blazer is very high in that category. But it's not a combo deck. It has a combo in it, and sometimes that combo wins the game. But I'd say the Aetherworks Marvel deck is way more of a combo deck just because that's what the deck's built to do. Whereas the Panharmonicon deck is more of a value deck than anything else.
I'm actually really curious. I want to talk to the guys who played this deck this weekend. I want to know how often they were actually assembling the combo to kill.
We saw it,
we saw it once.
Marshall and Reed were in the booth last round, but we haven't seen it past that in the feature match area.
Yeah, was that when some clown was in the card viewer too?
Look, I chose some great cards. So currently, Emrakul, 4 types, 7 mana. That's 11. So two away from Emrakul hitting the board. So Seth's under a clock. He knows he doesn't have forever to mess around with Panharmonicon.
How aggressive do you think he wants to be in the face of that?
The problem is aggression with Smuggler's Copters just doesn't work against Ishkanah, especially since if Corey loses 2 of the spiders, he gets to use Aetherworks Marvel. So I think Seth's kind of all in on trying to assemble the combo here unless he's got a good way to disrupt Corey's plan. But in the main deck, Seth can't really remove Aetherworks Marvel from the board and he doesn't have anything like Declaration of Stone to get past all those spiders.
All right, so the Glintless Crane whiffs, but it does trigger twice. See if it finds, okay, it found a Sky Sovereign.
Which is not particularly impressive on this board, despite the fact that it can pick off Ishkanah. I guess it can pick off Servant of the Conduit and set
him back a little bit on Emrakul?
Yeah, make it Emrakul a little further away. There's no creatures in the graveyard, so maybe that's actually a wash, because Servant of the Conduit no longer produces mana, but it will add to the Delirium count, or whatever you want to call Emrakul's graveyard tracking ability.
So Seth doing nothing else this turn.
He does have Eldrazi Displacer mana up. He can start killing the spiders slowly one by one because he can exile the spider tokens and then they, of course, don't come back.
All right, so a tune with Ether. And this gets Corey up to 6 energy.
Yeah, and that is critical because the extra land helps casting Emrakul, but the real bonus there is getting Corey to 6 energy means Aetherworks Marvel is on, and Corey's playing a deck which is higher on Eldrazi than most of the Marvel decks we've seen. So we've seen, I would say the average number of Eldrazi in Marvel decks is around 5 right now, and Corey's on 6. So,
do you think he has an incentive to activate it now?
Hitting Emrakul is the biggest reason to activate it on your turn. Hitting Ulamog is still pretty good because one of the reasons to wait is you want to hit, if you want to hit Ulamog, you want to have good targets. But Seth already has so many good targets in play that I think that Corey will be fine.
Oh, he hit a Ulamog on the very last one.
All right, so because Eldrazi Displacer can protect Seth's other creatures, you don't want to target like the Glintless Cranes or the Smuggler's Copters, but Ulamog eating something like Panharmonicon Eldrazi Displacer seems like it's pretty appealing.
All right, and there you see Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. So now Corey gets and those are exactly the 2 that Corey's going to go after. Panharmonicon and Displacer. Away they go. They're exiled now. And so now, if you're Seth, what are you looking for?
Well, Seth, I think, pretty clearly has a Stasis Snare in hand because he didn't use the Eldrazi Displacer to kill like a spider. But even then, how is Seth going to finish this game? His combo potential has just been decimated here, and he's no longer very close to comboing Seth or Corey out at all. Which means Corey's going to get to play Emrakul. Actually, not next turn, but let's see, 3, 6, 7, 8, 12. Actually, it could be if Corey draws an untapped land, he can just play Emrakul.
So the Stasis Snare does exile that Ulamog.
Ulamog ate too much, went to a food coma.
I think some people call that definition hangry.
Oh yeah.
I definitely do. I love the Emrakul that's just on Corey's side, just like looming.
Wow.
Hey, a Drowner of Hope.
So that indicates to me that Seth had the last piece of the combo was missing the 6th land.
Wow.
That's so brutal for Seth. He's just sitting there like, if I draw a 6th land, I can just combo
I could just
off.
win.
But instead, he missed the 6th land, and now he can use Drowner aggressively to tap down some of the spiders and get some attacks in, but this is really not going Seth's way.
Wow. All right, so it looks like that Eldrazi Scion taps down the Ishkana. Some of these creatures might be getting into these Smuggler's Copters.
And that's going to put Corey in a position where he can have some of his spiders die. It gives him energy from the Aetherworks Marvel, which is actually critical for Servant of the Conduit if he wants to play Emrakul next turn.
All right, so 2 Smuggler's Copters and 2 Glintnest Cranes. I know the Cranes are attacking or in the Copters.
I think the Cranes might be attacking because I think the Scions
are in the Copters.
Piloting the Copters. Yep. But either way, Corey's, despite Seth being the one with the vehicles, Corey's actually the person in the driver's seat here. Corey's the one who has this game, like, I wouldn't say just, won on the spot, but Corey's in very good shape.
So it looks like 3 spiders are going to team up to take down 1 helicopter, and all the other creatures get to connect.
Is that Drowner of Hope eating the Ulamog? What's going on here?
Yeah, they sorted it out. It's just Eldrazi and Eldrazi violence. So he's tapping it preemptively here?
Seth wants to keep Corey off of Emrakul mana, so he's tapping Servant of the Conduit. And again, since Corey's very, very graciously keeping track of his card types, he's got 4 card types. If he plays a land, he'll have 8 lands. That's 12. He would need the Servant to hit 13. And Corey is down to 11, but unless Seth has a second Drowner as a follow-up or maybe a Displacer for his Drowner, it's going to be difficult for him to get enough power to reduce Corey's life total before Corey can play that Emrakul.
I mean, how devastating would it be for Corey to play an Emrakul if he had been able to this turn for Seth?
Emrakul would, I think, make it almost impossible for Seth to win this game. And Seth has to do what he can to keep that from happening.
I wish we could take a look at what our last Corey's 2 cards.
They're all Emrakuls. So Seth currently, since one of the Smuggler's Copters died last turn, currently he's got 10 power in play at best. So he couldn't kill Corey this turn even if he could remove 3 blockers, which is not something his deck can do very easily. So Corey's going to get another turn here, but Seth might be able to force through a little bit of damage if he has another Drowner or an Eldrazi Displacer.
Well, it looks like Seth is kicking things off by putting that Crane into the Smuggler's Copter. Yep, and we're going to see an attack here from the Copter and the Drowner of Hope. He also gets a chance to loot.
Corey's got to be pretty happy about this. He just has good blocks here. And even if Stasis Snare or something along those lines hits Ishkana, just getting to chump both and get 2 more energy seems like a pretty good deal. Corey also has the option of putting Ishkana on Drowner to make sure she dies in order to cast Emrakul next turn, though you are giving up value instead of eating a Smuggler's Copter, but he does get an extra type into the graveyard.
All right, so it looks like the Ishkana is in front of the Smuggler's Copter and the Spider taking one for the team here, blocking the Drowner of Hope. Seth says okay. So down goes a Copter. And Corey up to 2 energy now.
So Corey's not very close to hitting another Aetherworks Marvel spin, but he's also not very close to dying, and he is very close to casting Emrakul.
Well, we actually got a peek at Corey's hand now. There's a Ulamog in hand.
You know, that actually may be relevant. Corey could just cast Ulamog this turn if he wanted to. He could cast either Eldrazi.
Okay, here we go.
I assume he's leading with Emrakul here.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. All right, so Emrakul, trigger past the turn. So Seth is going to make sure that Emrakul is not in play during this turn. But now this is Corey controlling Seth's turn.
This is just not going to go well for Seth. Corey has a lot of options. At the very least, he can make attacks like that kill Drowner off by double blocking with like Ishkana and Servant of the Conduit. Casting Cloudblazer is not particularly valuable. And then next turn, Corey can just cast Ulamog and get the Stasis Snare on Emrakul and get whatever Seth's most threatening permanent is.
Yeah, so here he's lining up, I think, how he wants to block.
And forcing Drowner to just kill the Spider token instead of any of the higher value creatures.
Nice trade, Drowner of Hope versus Baby Spider.
That's a good deal. And then Seth's probably, or it's better for Corey if Seth just doesn't cast any spells.
Yeah, he just didn't cast any spells and is passing back. So now this is back to Seth's turn. Let's see what Seth wants to do, but Corey's still with a Tormenting Voice and the Ulamog in hand. Five. All right, Sky Sovereign. Taking down that Servant of the Conduit and a follow-up Thraben Inspector.
That does prevent Corey from casting Ulamog unless he draws an untapped land, but with Tormenting Voice in hand, there's not much he can draw that's a complete break.
You do a Chandra.
All right, so Chandra can take down one of the Glint Nest Cranes or Thraben Inspector. That's not incredibly impressive. On the other hand, ticking Chandra up and exile the top card of Corey's library seems like it would be pretty good.
Yeah, that is what he's going to do. He hits a forest, though, so he's just going to have to be okay dealing Seth 2 damage here.
That was the worst-case scenario for Corey. He really just wanted to hit a relevant spell because he wants to play another land, but Chandra's +1 doesn't actually let you play lands. So he doesn't want to cast Tormenting Voice either because he wants to keep that Ulamog. That's what makes any land draw so good.
So how much pressure is Corey under here without having been able to follow up with his Ulamog?
I think things are still fine for Corey as long as Seth doesn't have another exile effect, because right now, if Seth doesn't kill Chandra, Chandra's +2 and +1 to add two red ability lets Corey cast Ulamog. If Seth does kill Chandra, he probably also has to kill Ishkana to get by to get to the point where he's killing Chandra, in which case the Aetherworks Marvel will get up to 6 energy and Corey will get another spin. So I think Corey is in pretty good shape regardless of what happens, and Seth doesn't even have that appealing of an attack. He can attack with Sky Sovereign, deal 3 to Chandra, and then induce an Ishkana chump, but that leaves Chandra in play. I guess Corey can actually attack with everything, deal 3 to Chandra. Ishkana blocks Sky Sovereign, and the Glint Nest Cranes and Thraben Inspector can finish her off. But that's where you end up in the situation where Aetherworks Marvel gets to go off.
Well, that is the attack that's happening right now because the Thraben Inspector and Cloudblazer are in the Sky Sovereign, and this is going to drop Chandra down to 2. Yep, Ishkana in front of Sky Sovereign.
And this gets Corey to the 6 energy he wants to hit off Marvel. So Corey has a lot going for him. Any land lets him cast Ulamog, and then he's going to get a Marvel spin here.
Evolving Wilds for Seth, and here we go. Corey activating that Marvel. Let's see what he finds. There's an Emrakul. There's also an Ishkana, so he has a couple choices.
It's actually not just like a windmill slam that you get Emrakul. I mean, I do think Emrakul is ultimately better.
Yeah.
But Ishkana would help provide a lot of blockers. The good thing is Seth's creatures are all a bunch of 1/1s, so even then I think you're still in okay shape.
Well, Corey drew another Chandra. And this is after Seth put a lot of work to kill the previous Chandra as well. Taking up for 5, and this is a Harness Lightning.
Oh, that was good. Just anything that helps Corey stabilize here is really what he's looking for. And getting an extra energy out of the deal works out pretty well, too.
Yeah, it looks like he's targeting the Cloud Blazer. And he gets to keep an extra energy from that exchange.
Corey was actually very close to just killing Seth between Chandra and Emrakul, but couldn't quite get there. It is funny that Corey has lacked a mana to cast this Ulamog for many, many turns, and Tormenting Voice is just the worst in this situation.
Isn't this part of the problem of putting Ulamog in your deck, though?
It is very difficult to cast Ulamog, and that's why you frequently see more Emrakuls than Ulamogs. Corey's playing 4 Emrakuls and only the 2 Ulamogs.
Tormenting Voice, an accurate depiction of
Yeah.
what's going on over for Corey.
Wow, we're seeing the hidden drawback of Westvale Abbey here is Corey is forcing Ormondal to emerge.
Yep. And so Westvale Abbey activated and Ormondal hits the battlefield.
And now, even if Seth has a way to remove Emrakul, Ormondal isn't lethal by himself, but with Emrakul in play, Seth can just block.
I don't think we've seen this at all yet.
I have not seen Ormondal this tournament.
Yep, so Ormondal attacks, Emrakul blocks. It's indestructible.
So Seth's just getting in for 9 points of life gain, but Corey is fine. He doesn't care. Corey would put Seth's life at 50 if it got him an extra land at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Seth's life total is not very relevant to how this game is going to conclude.
Let's see what that wants to do with another 5. All right, so it's a Sky Sovereign, nugging that Chandra down to 2. Oh, and he found a forest.
Corey finally draws the land the turn where he also just has Chandra. So
Yep.
I guess when it rains, it pours. And I think we're going to see an Ulamog hitting the battlefield this turn, exiling Ormondal and Sky Sovereign.
Yeah, so Corey ticks up. He is just revealing a land. And here we go. Hardcast Ulamog. Targeting Ormondal and Sky Sovereign.
How many Eldrazi does it take to win this game? We've seen 2 Ulamogs and 2 Emrakuls.
Yeah, where's Kozilek? He's just late to the party, I guess.
Yeah, Kozilek it really is the third wheel in, all,
Yeah.
in every Eldrazi.
Poor guy didn't
pair.
even get an invite.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, put me in, coach. All right, so let's see what Seth follows up with. It's a Cloud Blazer, gaining 2 life, drawing 2 cards.
I appreciate Seth's heart here, but I don't think
And
it's
a
going to
Glinda's
happen.
Crane. And Corey with a big untap. Tormenting Voice discarding a land.
You could
might
play
have-
another Emrakul.
He just drew another Emrakul. All right, so Chandra, oh, she might have almost been taken down.
Corey can Chandra away the Cloud Blazer or Glintness Crane. Either way, I mean, Corey can't lose this game.
All right, so both Emrakul and Ulamog attacking. And this is Seth exiling cards due to Ulamog, excuse me.
It's devouring cards out of
It
Seth's
is, it's
library.
very hungry. The Cloud Blazer jumping in front of that Emrakul and the Glintness Crane in front of the Ulamog.
And presumably Chandra finishing the game there.
Yep, and that's exactly as you said it. So Corey moves to 1-0 here in round 15, needing a whole Eldrazi team to actually take down the game.
Yeah, two Emrakul's and two Ulamogs. It's impressive that Seth survived and Corey, got to the point where he needed all the Eldrazi, but the Marvel deck is good at playing Eldrazi off Marvel and actually hardcasting them, so Corey did a combination of both.
It's so weird, too, because it looks like Seth was so close to assembling the combo, and he was really punished for not having that 6th land.
Yeah, Seth may have been a land away from winning the game. It looked like he had that Drowner there, so not the way you want to go out when you're playing for top 8, but Seth, I'm sure, is not bothered by it. I mean, he's a seasoned player. He'll think about it after the match, but during the match, it's like, well, I lost. That's unfortunate.
Oh, every time you come back and you do like the face cam back on Seth, he's just stone-faced. It doesn't matter if he won or lost. He's just always have the same look. Looking at the player's sideboard, Luis, who do you think improves post-board?
I think I like what Seth gets more, getting Fragmentize and Spell Shrivel and Summary Dismissal, as well as like another Thought Knot Seer, maybe Negate. These are all cards that are effective against Corey's game plan, and Seth has cards like Reflector Mage, which are just not as impressive. So he gets to make some pretty good swaps. Corey, on the other hand, can play another Ishkanah. He can, if he wants to get aggressive, he can play Tireless Tracker. World Breaker is good at killing Panharmonicon if you get to 7. But I think that Seth gets more effective sideboard cards than Corey does.
Well, the interesting thing, too, about Seth's deck is that he doesn't have any counterspells pre-board, right? No, he doesn't. So he actually does get to board into a more controlling deck.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Getting to board in 4 counterspells, an extra Thought Knot Seer, and 3 Fragmentize, means that Seth has a lot more ways to disrupt Corey, whereas game 1, Seth's pretty focused on just playing to the board and maybe assembling his combo, getting value, which isn't always what you want against such a focused deck like Red-Green Aetherworks.
How much do you think it benefits blue-white Panharmonicon players, given that it's a relatively new deck? I mean, now people are starting to hear about it and they've seen it at the top tables, but before they might have thought that there were counterspells and things like that. Do you think it gives them much of a benefit?
I think that the players playing Panharmonicon got extra mileage out of the fact that when they left 3 mana up, their opponents assumed they had Spellcaller.
Yep. And
at this point in the tournament, I would expect Corey to know that isn't the case and not play around it. But, round 7 or something, Seth's opponent probably thought, oh yeah, you probably have Spellcaller because all the blue-white decks do. And you do get an advantage out of that if you're Seth.
Is this your counter deck? Would you play this at a Grand Prix? Panharmonicon?
Panharmonicon deck? Yeah, I do enjoy decks like that. It is a lot of fun. I'm not sure how it will do after this weekend, because it's always interesting. When a deck first shows up and does well, that means it was probably good for that tournament. If it does well after that tournament, that's a little, that's where my confidence starts to build that it's a good deck.
Okay.
Because there's a difference between a good deck and a deck that was good for a tournament. And it's fine to play a deck that's good for a tournament because that means you made a good choice for that event. But like if you take the Pro Tour, for example, a lot of the decks persisted after the Pro Tour. Like Blue-White Flash, for example, was clearly a very strong deck. Other decks have kind of fallen off. It's like, well, maybe this deck was good for this event, but it's not a good deck moving forward.
Sure.
And I don't know where Panharmonicon falls yet, though. I do like the idea behind the deck. It does make sense to me.
So players drawing their opening 7. Seth likes his, but Corey mulligans immediately. I think he had 6 lands and like Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot.
Oh, the God Draw?
The God Draw, all right.
Turn 2 Puzzle Knot, turn 3 Sack.
You can't even say that.
Turn 4 Draw Marvel.
I was going to say, you can't even say that with a straight face.
I do not have a straight face right now.
Yes. So Corey going down to 6. He is up a game here, though. And this one is looking much better, and Corey has chosen to keep.
So
Scry to the bottom, though.
We've had a lot of experience covering Corey in feature matches. He's been doing well this year, made the finals of Grand Prix Dallas. And I got to admit, I love how fast he plays.
Oh, he plays so fast, and it's great.
You get extra points in my book if you play fast, especially if you play well, and Corey's doing both. So I definitely appreciate watching players who are brisk with their actions.
Yeah, we saw him losing to Scred Red in the finals of Dallas-Fort Worth.
That might not have been the outcome he wanted, but it was an entertaining match.
He had a great weekend, too, though. So Attune with Ether to kick things off. Corey revealing that mountain, also 2 energy from it too. Seth actually picked up a Wastes from that Evolving Wilds. So what do you make of that if you're Corey?
It indicates that Seth, first of all, has white mana already, or white and blue mana, doesn't have mana problems. Second of all, that the first card I'd be suspicious of is Thought-Knot Seer. That's the card you want on turn 4. So getting a Waste this early indicates to me that there's a good chance Seth's got a Thought-Knot Seer ready.
So 2 more for Glintnest Crane. And it's a whiff. The Glintnest Crane jumps into the Smuggler's Copter. We're going to see a loot. And discarding a second Smuggler's Copter. And there's the Plains. Pass back to Corey.
Well, Corey's got the tools he needs. He's got Aetherworks Marvel in hand, and actually critically, he's got an Aether Hub as well, so he could, well, if he had another green source, he could play Vessel of Nascency, crack Vessel, and still have 6 energy for the Marvel next turn, but because it's an Aether Hub, it gets him to 6 energy, but if he wants to crack Vessel, he actually has to use an energy, so Corey has to decide now whether he wants to use that energy to crack Vessel and not waste the 2 mana, or just be able to spin Marvel as soon as you play it. And I assume that spinning Marvel is valuable because post-board you do expect cards like Fragmentize.
Oh, but here comes Thought-Knot Seer.
Well, this certainly changes Corey's decision.
Yep. Marvel and Chandra.
He's pre-exiling the Marvel, even though Seth could take the Chandra if he wanted, but Corey's going to go ahead and make the assumption that Seth's taking the Marvel.
Yeah, and the choice is definitely correct. Looks like Glintnest Crane and Smuggler's Copter attacking. The Thought-Knot Seer is jumping into the helicopter. Looting away that island. Okay, so now that he doesn't have that choice anymore, he is just going to go ahead and crack that Vessel of Nascency. He found another Marvel.
So now Corey has to decide whether he wants to play around counter spells or Fragmentize, and somehow he's playing faster than he was before. And by playing Marvel, he plays around counter spells. And Seth has more counter spells than he has Fragmentizes, so that does make sense. This also plays around another Thought-Knot Seer by having Marvel in play instead of in your hand.
There you see Fragmentize. It feels so bad to have your Marvel fragmentized. All right, so this time the Glintnest Crane is in the helicopter, and now Thought-Knot Seer and Smuggler's Copter attacking.
Putting Corey under a lot of pressure, but if Seth's not unable to kill the Marvel, Corey's going to get an activation next turn. He could just hit an Eldrazi, an Ulamog, or an Emrakul, and then all of a sudden Corey'd go from losing to being in pretty good shape.
Discards a Pilgrim's Eye, so Corey down to 9 now.
Looks like Corey should be at 6, I believe. He got hit for 3, then for 4, and then for 7. So we'll see. It sounded like they were discussing that in the feature match area. We'll see what they end up doing.
It's possible we just have the life bar wrong. So Attune with Ether. Searching up another land and also providing some energy.
I mean, Seth's thinking about countering this, or at least acting like he is, but it doesn't really accomplish much because Corey already has the way to generate the energy and play with the Puzzle Knot, so that's not going to prevent a Marvel activation. So I would be surprised if Seth ended up actually wanting to stop it.
Yep, and here we go. Corey pays that 6 energy.
Oh, yeah, it looks like the Puzzle Knot is actually why Corey's at 9, of course.
And there we go. That's a big hit.
All right, does Seth have his 1 copy of Summary Dismissal here? That would be, that is what he needs right now.
Well, if he had it, he would slam it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Watching Seth, I could see him wait for Corey to finish shuffling first, then think about it a little bit, and then cast Summary Dismissal. What if it's not Summary? What if it's just a Dismissal?
Yep, and this Ulamog is successful. taking away one of those lands.
So now Corey has to decide if he wants to just play Chandra or keep Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot mana open, or what he's worried about Seth having, like maybe a counterspell into Chandra. So it looks like Corey does not want to get his Chandra countered.
So what about the thought of killing the Smuggler's Copter and not the Thought-Knot Seer, or more lands?
So Corey's assuming Ulamog's going to survive to block Thought-Knot Seer, I think, is part of the idea with killing the Copter instead. And by killing a land, he's preventing Seth from playing something like Cloudblazer or getting up to Drowner of Hope eventually.
Well, that Reflector Mage does bounce that Ulamog back to the hand. Thought-Knot Seer and Glidness Crane attacking.
Also, Chandra can pick off Thought-Knot Seer, so by killing Smuggler's Copter, you leave yourself a good target for Chandra.
Yep, and she is ticking down immediately, and down goes a Seer.
And Corey's going to be able to use the Marvel this turn. Either you can sack Evolving Wilds, or he can play Ether Hub.
Yeah, so he did, and that puts him up to enough to spin the wheel again. So he's passing the turn, yep.
So he's not using Marvel yet. But Seth's in really bad shape here, because even if Corey misses on Marvel, Seth's not that close to killing him, especially since he might have to use a little bit of attack power on Chandra. And Corey just is getting to enough mana that he, at some point, may be able to cast another Ulamog this game.
All right, so Corey here, it looks like the creatures are attacking already, and now Corey is going to activate the Marvel. He found... Yeah, World Breaker.
Wow, he's just, this is red-green land destruction. He's he's getting Seth's mana here. Though, one of the drawbacks to Corey waiting is just what just happened.
Yeah, so Seth now had a Spell Shrivel active.
And had Corey used the Marvel on his turn, he would be able to. Seth would have been tapped out, and Spell Shrivel wouldn't have worked.
So the World Breaker trigger still happens, and that Plains is now gone, but now Corey's going to have to line up some blocks. Chandra is now dead. The Servant of the Conduit is also getting in front of that Reflector Mage.
And Corey chumped with Servant of the Conduit, not as much because he cared about the 2 life, but because it gets him to 4 energy. Sacking Evolving Wilds gets him to 5 energy, and sacking Vessel of Nascency gets him to 6 energy.
There you go.
Corey's gearing up for another Marvel spin.
And this time Seth is tapped out. So cracking that Evolving Wilds. There you go, there's a Vessel. Crack the Vessel. Let's see what's inside the Vessel. Another Marvel, a Numbercool. He would have really liked to hit that off a Marvel.
Yeah, Corey is close to casting Numbercool, but yes, he would have certainly preferred to hit it off Marvel.
Marvel, Chandra, and Vessel. Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. Oh, it's always the last one.
Yeah.
How is it possible?
Also, Corey's hit an Eldrazi with Aetherworks Marvel every time.
Yep. Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger is coming back for seconds.
That sounds like something someone with Ceaseless Hunger would do.
Yep.
Corey putting on a clinic on how to activate Marvel here. Quickly and always hitting.
So he's, so he's going after the lands. And now Seth's left with 1 waste.
I've never seen someone with so few lands at this point in the game in this format. Corey's devoured like 5 of Seth's lands.
Not just that, look at all the colored permanents that are in play, and just a waste in play too. All right, so Corey's laying out there our Delirium count.
Wow, it looks like 7 types.
7 types?
So yeah, Emrakul's coming out next turn.
That Glidness Crane
oh,
still
man,
continuing
this Marvel deck is something else.
Yeah,
it really
it's so
is.
good. Yeah, so this drops Corey down to 6. He's starting to see how many cards are in exile, so he's just counting actually to see how many cards are left in Seth's library.
Yeah, he wants to see if Ulamog is a 2-turn clock or a 3-turn clock, because it could change how many attacks Seth, or whether Corey wants to attack or not.
Yeah, so he's getting in there now. Time to exile 20. Also, this one's a cool exile because he actually gets to learn about how Seth's boarded.
Yeah, which I think is not going to be relevant for Corey because I don't think we're seeing a game
Yeah,
theory.
but still.
Seth's exiling the top 20 cards of his library, and I believe most of his hopes of making top 8 at this tournament. I think Corey and the Eldrazi squad are going to take this home, minus Kozilek, of course. No Kozileks allowed.
Nope. Is there anything else that Corey wants to do?
Well, Seth, I think is deciding whether he wants to chump Ulamog, because Ulamog gets a 2-turn clock in terms of life total as well. And then...
Yeah, so the Thraven Inspector's getting in front. And this is like one of the cheaper Emrakul's we've seen so far.
Doesn't get much cheaper than this.
All right, so Emrakul the Promised End makes an appearance. And now this is going to be Corey controlling Seth's next turn.
Corey has as many Eldrazi's as Seth has lands. It's not a good ratio for Seth.
Seth cracking a clue.
I like Seth fighting till the bitter end. I mean...
Dude, Heart of a Champion. Eldrazi Displacer. Drawing another one. Under Reflector Mage.
So controlling Seth's turn isn't going to accomplish a whole lot. Corey can attack one of Seth's creatures into Emrakul. That's about it. But he does verify that Seth doesn't have a whole lot he can do here. Seth doesn't even have an untapped blue source to play that Reflector Mage.
Is there any benefit to playing any of his cards at this point?
No, you don't want to. You certainly don't want to play Prairie Stream. You can't cast anything else. So that's about all you can do here.
Yeah, there are not a lot of cards left there.
Looks like more than 20, though. So it looks like Corey's not going to be able to finish the game with Ulamog exiling in one turn, but I still don't see how Seth deals these last 6 points.
He's just attacking on multiple fronts is the thing. Both in terms of damage, cards in library.
Oh, waste is a basic. Never mind. The Prairie Stream, I guess, comes into play untapped. So that actually does change Corey's play. This is something that I've seen happen many times.
You Reflector Mage, yeah.
You Reflector Mage the Emrakul, so then you get to Emrakul again at some point in the future here.
Yeah, and that is what he's doing. So the two creatures continuing to...
Oh, wow. Seth drew another Reflector Mage.
Wow.
Wait a second. This actually could just turn around completely.
Jeez, and now without that Ulamog. What did he draw? So he has 3 Ulamogs in hand?
He has... I think he drew... Did he draw another Ulamog?
I think he did. Servant of the Conduit?
Servant of the Conduit is actually really, really good because Corey was kind of priced into casting Emrakul this turn, but Servant's one of the few plays he can make that affects the board. So I think Corey's still going to win this game, but that second Reflector Mage off the top made it a lot more close than it looked like it could have been.
Do you think it's possible it was risky considering that he could have drawn another one?
Well, it's close. Corey could have... If he didn't play Reflector Mage, the problem is if he doesn't play Reflector Mage and Seth Reflector Mage is on Seth's extra turn, Corey can't replay Emrakul, but by Reflector Maging during Seth's first turn, Emrakul can be cast on Corey's next turn because of how the timing works.
All right, so the Reflector Mage attacked into the Emrakul. Emrakul blocks, of course.
And yeah, to be clear, when Seth casts Reflector Mage on his first turn and bounced Emrakul, Corey can play Emrakul on Corey's next turn because it's until your next turn, and Seth got an extra turn. So that extra turn negated the Reflector Mage extra ability.
Yeah, that's weird interaction.
Yeah. Actually, the Servant of the Conduit was an especially relevant draw because if Corey now draws an untapped land, he can cast
the Ulamog.
But Corey's at 3 now, and Eldrazi Displacer is a threat.
Seems like if he would have drawn the land, he would have slammed it at this point. Oh my god!
Corey lost.
Wow. That is incredible. So Seth Manfield takes this game and they're going to game 3? Jeez.
Seth had a Plains and Oasis in play. Corey had an Ulamog and an Emrakul in play.
I mean, you said
Seth
it.
won that game.
You said it better than. You said it the best way to put it. Corey had more Eldrazi in play, giant, enormous Eldrazi in play, than Seth had lands.
I'm very surprised by that turn of events. Let's just put it that way. That Reflector Mage off the top, that's called stealing a game right there.
Yeah.
That is, wow, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. So Seth Manfield forces a game 3. This is one of the most intense matches we've seen.
That was insane. I cannot believe that just happened. Was there any sequence of events?
So
what could Corey do differently there?
What if Corey doesn't play the Reflector Mage on Emrakul? He just passes the turn. Next turn, Seth Reflector Mages Emrakul. Corey can't replay it, but he can play.
But he has an Ulamog.
He can play Servant of the Conduit, attack with Ulamog, but then the top deck Reflector Mage can bounce the Servant of the Conduit, and Seth attacks for lethal. I think that.
So is he dead either way?
If Corey attacks with Ulamog, he ends up dying either way. I don't know if he would have attacked with Ulamog there, but he probably would have.
It seems very likely, because then he's just dead in one more turn, right?
Wow. Yeah, I believe that had Corey not played the Reflector Mage, Seth's top deck Reflector Mage would have let him force through a win. Mm-hmm. Because the situation of Corey having Ulamog, Servant of the Conduit at 3 life, facing Reflector Mage, Glintless Crane, Corey probably attacks with Ulamog there, because the only way he loses if Seth has another Reflector Mage.
Sure. And he's seen his hand,
so he knows
he has to peel.
And he knows he has to peel. So I think that Corey would have made that play, because it would have been correct to attack with Ulamog, put Seth on a 1-turn clock. But if he didn't attack with Ulamog and Seth top decked Reflector Mage, Corey would have been able to recast Emrakul and maybe win from there. I don't know. It was very close, having to look at the exact setup. But all I know is if I'm Corey and I lose this game 3, I'm going to think about that game 2 for a long time. That was one of the most absurd sequences I've seen.
Well, it definitely just looked like Corey had navigated to a point where it was almost impossible for him to lose, but geez. And it does go back to a lot of the decisions of, Ulamog, what is it, exile, and all those things. They all break down to, the very last couple turns. So Corey has kept, and Seth is taking a mulligan.
It's actually possible, because Wastes let Prairie Stream enter the battlefield untapped. Had Corey left Seth with like a Prairie Stream instead of the Wastes at one point.
Yeah.
It's possible Corey wins by shutting off Prairie Stream. I'm not saying that is right either, though, because leaving your opponent with colorless mana instead of a dual land makes sense, but there are a lot of decision points.
There's just so many decision points there.
And it's not a good way to make decisions
Don't be
in Magic.
So rowdy.
Exactly. Don't be results-oriented. Magic or life in general, where you make a decision and then you see what happens. You're like, well, this turned out poorly, so the decision was wrong. That's not what that implies. Corey may have made the right decision and given Seth a 5% chance to win instead of a 20% chance, but Seth hit the 5%.
And it still played out poorly, right?
So that doesn't make it wrong, but it is interesting to look back at the decision points and see, well, what could I have done differently? That is how you improve as a Magic player.
Wow, so Seth's taking another mulligan. This time he's going down at 5.
It's so brutal for Seth, too, because when you win a game like that game 2, you think like, wow, I am doing it.
Yeah.
Like, the Magic gods are on my side. I'm gonna win this match. And then you roll the 5. You're like, never mind. They just wanted to give me the glimmer of hope, the brief taste.
I feel like the thing you were mentioning about being results oriented, it also comes up a lot, especially when you get to see the player's hands. Because you have cards like, Transgress, and you get to know exactly what they drew, so you get immediate feedback on whether it was good or bad. And that doesn't make it necessarily a bad decision at the time, but you do get to find out immediately how wrong it was. Or not how punished you're going to get. So it looks like Corey is coming back soon. So that has a chance to keep shuffling a little bit.
And the players do have extra time because of the feature match area, but they do not have a lot of extra time.
Yeah, they do not. There's actually, we're done with time in the round, in the regular round.
So what happens if these players draw? Seth Manfield has much better tiebreakers than Corey. So if they draw, Seth's ahead of Corey, and Seth's ahead of the other 34-pointer who would have won to 37. There's a chance if they draw that Seth actually makes it into the top 8.
Yeah, that is what I'm seeing over here, too. There's a pretty good chance that he can top 8 if they unintentionally draw. This is really tough, especially because the second game took so long.
The good thing for Corey is he's playing a deck that can win in not very many turns.
Yeah.
A turn 4 Emrakul or Ulamog does end the game very quickly.
What is the kind of draw that he's looking for?
So let's see, turn 1 Attune, turn 2 Forest Attune, turn 2 Ether Hub, Servant of the Conduit. Turn 3 Ether Hub Marvel. Does that doesn't get you there? No, you can't turn 3 activate Marvel. But I'll say a turn. Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot into Marvel and just turn 4 Marvel.
And just turn 4 Marvel. What, hit a Nulamog, kill him in 2 attacks?
Oh, yeah.
The dream?
That would be pretty sweet.
I'm guessing you also need no creatures around, but I guess Nulamog can just pick him down real quick.
Turn 4 Marvel, hit an Eldrazi. Turn 5 land, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, sack it, hit another Eldrazi. Corey's played like an average of 4 Eldrazi per game, so...
Hey, if you want to play Eldrazi, this is the deck for you. You get them a lot cheaper than trying to ramp into them. You know, there was a ramp deck that was dedicated to, you know, powering out a Nulamog, but this deck is much quicker at actually being able to power them out.
Yeah, the ramp deck was like using, you know, various like 2-mana lands and mana ramp to like cast your
vegetation and things like that.
Cast your turn 6 or 7 Ulamog. This deck is just turn 4 Marvel.
Yeah.
Ulamog.
Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. Guess people don't eat as many vegetables anymore.
Yes. Though explosive vegetation doesn't sound like something you're supposed to eat.
That's what you say.
It actually sounds like a symptom
Depends on
of
how
something
much you
you're
like
not supposed to
vegetables. Let
eat.
me.
All right, looks like Corey is back.
Yeah, it looks like the players are getting something sorted out here with the judges.
And they will be getting extra time for all of this.
So we'll bring you updates as that develops. What do you think you would have played this weekend?
I think the deck I would have played going into this weekend is I'm trying to think of what the different decks that people on my team played, because I would have likely played one of those.
Okay.
I would probably not have played Blue White Flash.
Why not?
Because I feel like it doesn't have the right set of matchups, where I don't think it's good enough against Marvel or Black Green to justify how bad it is against the aggro decks.
Okay.
And I just don't want to put the card Revolutionary Rebuff in my deck.
Just based on principle?
Yeah.
Not today, Revolutionary
Going
Rebuff.
into the tournament, I probably would have played Black Green Delirium. I think the deck has a lot of play. I like a lot of what's going on. It's interesting to play. Coming out of this tournament, I think Red Green Aetherworks feels like the best deck in Standard to me. Having seen how resilient it is and how good it is at enacting multiple game plans, I'm actually kind of on the train of Red Green Aetherworks just being a great deck.
It's such a fun deck, honestly. I know a lot of people don't like it because it feels like rolling the dice, right? You just, okay, here we go, activate the Marvel, let's hope for the best, and you don't really get anything. You're like, oh, what we were supposed to
I mean, you're talking to the guy who played 8 collected companies over the last 2 Standard Pro Tours.
Not like you missed a single time.
Well, I just, looking at my top 6 cards and putting good things into play, that's something that has worked for me before. So, that's not the part about Marvel that I would be hesitant to play.
Yeah, no, I don't mean you. I just mean in general, when I've heard people talk about the Marvel deck, like that is the one thing that kind of holds them back. They're just, I don't really want to roll the dice with something like this. Because you have to make decisions based on, well, if I hit a Nishkana, then maybe this. If I hit a Numrakul, then maybe this. If I hit a Ulamog, well, then maybe this. But you just don't know.
I think that players focus a little bit much on aspects like, oh, it's so random when you do this thing, but really what you're trying to look look at the overall win percentage of the deck, and if Marvel has a 62% win percentage, that is a fantastic deck. So how that ends up panning out, how the games end up playing out, they're relevant to your play style, but if you're just looking to maximize win percentage, you should generally just play the best deck.
It was pretty cool, the results in Grand Prix Madrid. There were 4 different copies of Red Green Ether Works.
Well, there you go.
In the top 8.
Sounds like a great deck to me.
Yeah. All right, so this is 5 for Seth.
At 5 cards, it's Seth's playing a deck with card draw, but his best card draw spell costs 5 mana, so Cloud Blazer. So Seth does not have an easy way to recover from mulliganing to 5. And if Corey has, a quick Aetherworks draw, then it's going to be hard for Seth to both fight that and still pressure Corey, because he needs to do both at once.
It's kind of tough though, because Red Green Aetherworks, if you don't get off to that very quick Marvel start, it's not like you can go on a really aggro beatdown plan, you know? How did the rest of your team do this weekend?
I actually don't know what the final results are. We had Paul with a good start at 10-2, but he ended up finishing 10-4 going into the last round. And Matt Nass and Josh Layton at X3 and X3-1 going into the last round.
All right, so we were actually going to get Rich Hagon on the stream to make a bit of an announcement on what's the situation that's going on in the feature match.
Yeah, they're just trying to sort through Corey, obviously.
Hi, Luis, and thanks, Gabby, for the headset just remote. Rich Hagan here, just to fill you in with what's going on, because I'm sure at home you all have opinions and you want to know what's going on. So the situation here, obviously, we're very tight for time. This isn't now the last match of the round. The way that the tie breaks are looking like they work out, and these players, they're both top players, they know what tie breaks look like. Corey and Seth are both aware that an unintentional draw, as you've been saying on the stream, guys, Seth will very likely still be in the top 8. Corey will absolutely not be in the top 8 with an unintentional draw, because Seth would likely finish 8th, or maybe even 7th. Corey would likely finish 9th. So Corey's concern was specifically with the pile shuffling that Seth was doing, because obviously pile shuffling takes time, and there are questions about randomization and so on. The question became, was Seth altering his behavior before this last game 3 in terms of pile shuffling versus earlier in the match? And the players, and let's face it, it's not something that you particularly pay attention to, how players shuffle between particular games. So the players didn't agree on what had happened earlier in the match. So the head judge came over to us and wanted to have a little look. And I can confirm that Seth pile shuffled between games 1 and 2. We don't have a record of what happened before the match started, because of course we were back here at the booth waiting to go down for the match to begin. So they wanted to get a sense of whether this was just a continuing pattern of behavior, that they're pile shuffling each time. Corey obviously wants as much time as possible to eke out the win that he needs. So that's where we are. That's what's been discussed. So they are continuing to do that. Now, if you're at home thinking, well, hang on, can't they show us something else? Well, right now, as I say, this is the last match of the last round. Now, we are going to show you some Time Walk magic, some of the other matches that will win and ins as we prepare for the top 8. But right now, there is no live magic we can show you. So as soon as we have an outcome to this, we'll let you know. And we'll then get back to what hopefully will be a game 3 where ideally somebody wins and gets into the top 8 by winning a game of Magic.
And it sounds like they're actually debating how much time is left as well, based on there has been these judge calls. So when we know how much time they will have left for game 3, we will update that.
Of course. All right. So I'm going to hand you back to Gabby and Louise, and we'll be with you as soon as we can with more live Magic. Here we go.
Everybody, and welcome back. Well, I guess I'm welcome back now. So are we kicking things off here?
Yeah, Corey got to reveal 4 cards on turn 1. That's pretty impressive.
All right, so Corey kicking things off here. A tune with Ether, and Seth kept his 5.
Yeah, it looked like Seth kept
Okay.
his 5.
Let's see what the follow-up is. Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. So like you said, if he really wants to go for that Marvel on turn 4 at activation, this is definitely the way to do so. Does he have a Marvel, though?
Does not look like he has Marvel in hand. Looks like a Tune, Harness Lightning, and lands.
All right, so Seth with Evolving Wild, Island, Plains, and Go. And Corey, this is happening at normal speed. Corey is just playing very fast. So it looks like the players have 2 minutes before time.
Yeah, it looks like it's
It's still unresolved, but it looks like this might be
roughly 2 minutes.
Roughly 2 minutes.
as we'll say.
all right. So
At which point they will go into extra turns.
yep. So Corey with a land pass.
And Corey's just missing a Marvel. His hand is all lands, Ulamog, Worldbreaker, or Harness Lightning.
All right, and so Corey's going to immediately harness lightning away that Thought Knot Seer. The choices are Ulamog and a World Breaker.
Corey's tapping 4 for Harness Lightning just to be efficient as possible. All right,
I mean, he has every incentive in the world to just play as fast as possible. And so Seth is going to take the World Breaker, leaving Ulamog kind of stranded in Corey's hand, actually.
All right, here's the Marvel draw. That's what Corey needs. Oh,
Chandra.
Chandra's quite good here. Just getting her on the board when Seth does not have anything means that Corey's going to be able to untap. And actually, Chandra mana ramping and picking off Seth's creatures, as well as letting Corey see extra cards every turn. He could not have asked for a better draw except Aetherworks Marvel.
All right, so Chandra ticking up to 5. Seth playing a Sky Sovereign.
No, that's a good answer to Chandra.
Puts her down to 2. Draw. Play a Forest, take up Chandra. It's another Chandra. Replay Chandra. Take her up. Another Forest. Hit Seth again. Pass.
So if Seth can crew the Sky Sovereign, then Chandra is going to hit the bin. But if not, Corey will get another turn with Chandra here.
Oh, this is 6 mana. Is this a Drowner Hope?
Looks like a Drowner. I think Seth is actually currently
Winning the game.
winning the game regardless of how much time is left.
All right, so Drowner Hope coming in, bringing some Eldrazi Scions. And it looks like we have hit turns now. So I think at this point, we'll see the players slow down their pace of play.
So Seth is on turn 0, which means Corey gets turn 1, turn 3, and turn 5. So Corey needs to draw Marvel basically this turn.
He did it. I think he just drew a land.
And remember, this is on Seth mulliganing to 5.
Yes.
This
is kind of the dream, right?
He went, Thought Knot Seer, Sky Sovereign into Drowner, and just all lands, which for a mulligan to 5, that's a great draw.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is Corey's really flooded. The things he kept in hand were Ulamog and Worldbreaker. One of them got exiled, and now this Ulamog's just stranded. Cloud Blazer for Seth. And this is digging him out of this mulligan.
This is turn 2, so Seth's going to get turn 2 and turn 4. Seth, I don't think, can actually win the game in time either. Oh, no, it looks like he can hit Corey for 12 this turn. If Corey doesn't have anything, I guess Corey gets to sack Woodweaver's
He gets to
Puzzle
activate,
Knot.
yeah, the Puzzle Knot.
So it's going to be tough. Corey, I mean, even though a draw is much better for Seth than it is for Corey, it's still better for Corey to get a draw than a loss in this position. And I don't think. Let's see, Seth has 5. If Seth can assemble enough to crew Sky Sovereign, then he has lethal this turn.
And it looks like Corey drew another Ulamog. It's yet another card he can't do anything with. So it looks like the Scion and the Cloud Blazer are maybe getting into that Sky Sovereign. Unless Seth has other pilots.
Well, if Seth doesn't have another pilot, he actually doesn't have lethal here.
He did draw 2 off of the Cloud Blazer, but we don't know what it is.
And, I mean, Seth would certainly prefer a win too. There's no reason to take any sort of tiebreaker gamble.
A Pilgrim's Eye?
Seth's going to be 1 short unless he has another creature. He can do 5 off Drowner, 6 off Sky Sovereign, 2 off Scions after piloting. So he can put Corey to 1 here on turn 4 of extra turns. Corey gets turn 5 of extra turns.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no planes. And there's a handshake.
Yeah, yep, that looks like an
and it's a
unintentional draw.
It's an unintentional draw. So now, looking likely like Seth makes top 8 with an unintentional draw?
It does look likely based on how much tiebreakers can possibly change, and Seth's tiebreakers are so much ahead of everyone else that, yes, Seth, I think, will make top 8 with an unintentional draw. Obviously, the caveat that something strange can happen.
Yeah.
Corey does not look exceptionally likely to make top 8 with an unintentional draw.
Any chances or kind of out of hope?
It depends on other match results, but I believe Corey is most likely to finish 9th.
Gotcha.
So again, I
This
cannot
is-
predict
obviously
what
this is
how
all-
all the matches shake
Yes.
out.
But we will be bringing you updates as that develops. All right, and that's going to do it for our last live match here in round 15. But when we come back, we will have a time walk match to determine another one of our topics.